To bask in the glory, that is the name of the game. But for every moment of sheer bliss comes moments of utter heart-wrenching pain. We are walking deep into the NFL Cave of Wonders.
Cave of Wonders?
To show that not everything is sunshine and rainbows in the game we love. And sometimes, the ball doesn't always bounce your way. I'm your host, Trenton Hill, and you just might be watching Hill Time Sports. Let's go! Cursed edition. For the Baltimore Ravens, we could go with two heartbreaking losses, and I can turn to what just happened this season, 2025. Tyler Loop misses the game-winning field goal. Jim Harbaugh, their illustrious coach, is fired. But we could actually throw it all the way back to the 2011 AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots. Yes, another Tom Brady dagger, but that dagger was stuck in their backs by their own doing. With minutes to go, it's 20-23. Joe Flacco fired the ball in the corner of the end zone, and Lee Evans catches it. Only for Sterling Moore to strip it out of his hands in the last second. This game went back and forth, and Flacco had two touchdowns, one to Dennis Pitta and the other to Torrey Smith. It was a game that Anquan Boldin had over 100 yards. With little time on the clock, they trot out Billy Cundiff, 32-yarder to send it into overtime, and Cundiff misses the kick. The Patriots run out the clock.
Ball down. Kick is no good.
Now, where do we go from here, Buffalo? Do we go with the 13-second playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, or do we go somewhere else? Because there's a game played right in the middle of the Gulf conflict that broke this team's spirit worse than anything. The year 1991. The Buffalo Bills, the New York Giants, Super Bowl 25. Bill Parcells' defense stifled the K-gun for most of the game until nearly the end when Thurman Thomas broke free for a 31-yard touchdown to give the Bills a 19-17 lead. Scott Norwood actually did hit a 23-yard field goal earlier in this game, but what's also lost on the world, because, it's been 30-something years, is that Norwood was a brutal 1 for 5 on field goals from 40-plus on grass that season. The Giants answer back with a field goal of their own to make it a 20-19 game. With 8 seconds left, though, the Bills send out their would-be hero Norwood for a 47-yard attempt. And we all know what happened next. The ball sails just right of the post, wide right. The Bills lose and go on to collapse 3 more times in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately for Bills fans.
Spot in the air. It's got the distance. It is no good.
The Cincinnati Bengals are known for their heartbreak. I mean, look at their front office right now. In my lifetime, Carson Palmer in the wild card suffering a heartbreaking injury. Super Bowl loss in 2022, and I watched Marvin Lewis continuously get out-coached in the playoffs. But today, we throw it all the way back to January 22nd, 1989. Super Bowl 23, the Bengals are up 16-13 after a Jim Breach field goal. There's 3 minutes and 10 seconds left, and the 49ers are pinned deep at their own 8-yard line. They call John Elway's comeback the drive, but this had way bigger stakes in my opinion. And this is where Joe Montana shows why, in my opinion, he is the greatest quarterback in NFL history, snatching the hearts out of Bengals fans yet again. The Bengals assumed Montana would throw for the sidelines to manage the clock. Instead, he boldly threw it in the middle of the field. Jerry Rice had a massive part in this drive, keeping this drive alive, but it was John Taylor who caught a 10-yard touchdown pass from Montana with 34 seconds left to seal the game. That 92-yard march is a loss that has haunted Bengals fans for decades, and they haven't recovered because we see their freaking front office and Joe Burrow looking like he wants to retire like Andrew Luck.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws.
Cleveland Browns fans, Well, your second stint in Cleveland has just sucked, and that could be a curse in itself. And I already mentioned the drive. That one stung. But the 1987 championship game the very next year may have been even worse for the Cleveland faithful, because they were on the doorstep of the Super Bowl yet again, and maybe they would have had a chance against the team they were playing. But it was their own hands that failed them. After a 20-yard touchdown from John Elway to Sammy Winder, the Broncos took a 38-31 lead down late. In the fourth quarter, the Browns, led by Bernie Kosar, started marching. They go down the field, starting with the 16-yard run by Ernest Biner. We'll talk about him in a bit. Mixed with a few passes from Kosar, and suddenly they're in the red zone. They might win this game. 8 yards to go. Kosar hands the ball to Biner, who goes left side, off tackle. He sees the hole. It looks like he's going to score and tie the game, but then disaster strikes. And this was the exact moment the Browns started their downward spiral for the next few decades, even leaving Cleveland for Baltimore. Jeremiah Castile strips Biner at the 2-yard line. The Broncos recover, but they get it. Well, at least the Browns get a safety to make it a better game. 38-33, the final score. And Cleveland just hasn't recovered since. But at least you have the Cavaliers.
Biner inside the 5 to the 4 to the 3 to the 2. He fumbles the football.
Yes, we could talk about the Denver Broncos in their 2013 season, 43-8 Super Bowl against Seattle, but I wouldn't say that's the most disappointing. Super Bowl 24, that was bad too, it was a blowout, but I don't think that one was the most backbreaking either. I'm going to go to the 1996 divisional round for this one. Yes, we know that Elway got his Super Bowl eventually, but in 1996, it actually looked like this was his best shot to do it. They were the number 1 seed, but Mike Shanahan rested his starters for the last 3 games, and you don't see that in today's NFL. And they came out in that divisional round rusty. To be fair, they were up 12-0 at one point, but this was against the upstart Jacksonville Jaguars, who had only been a franchise for 2 seasons. Mark Brunell and the Jaggies scored 13 unanswered points to go into the half. But I think the real dagger for them is when Brunell led the Jaguars on a back-breaking drive where he scrambled for 29 yards on one play and then threw a touchdown to Jimmy Smith. Shannon Sharp was in tears on the sideline, and honestly, at the time, it looked like this was John Elway's last hope at the Lombardi Trophy. But we all know that didn't happen. Still a curse, though.
Going long for McCardell. Touchdown.
The Indianapolis / Baltimore Colts, and I really wanted to do the goes to the post or Super Bowl III in this video, and fans booing Andrew Luck retiring was definitely a bad moment for you guys. But you cannot leave out the 2015 fake punt fiasco. And this was a Week 6 matchup against the Patriots right after Deflategate. The Colts send the punting unit out, but suddenly 9 players shift to the right side of the field. This leaves just safety Colt Anderson under center and the wide receiver Griff Whalen at the line. Now Whalen apparently didn't get the memo that they were supposed to draw a penalty. What ensued was one of the worst things to happen on a football field next to the butt fumble. We'll get to that later, maybe, who knows. Whalen actually snaps the ball, and Anderson is immediately tackled like he was on the SC LSU Mud Dogs, and the New England Patriots were, well, any other competent college football team.
You're fired.
Oh no! We suck again!
Even Pat McAfee admitted later that they were not supposed to run a play at all. And so much for revenge.
Is behind him, and
for Jacksonville, I really wanted to stay away from personal tragedies. Yes, they drafted 5 consecutive busts from 2009 to 2013, but Justin Blackmon's tragic story of substance abuse isn't a joking matter in my opinion. In the 2017 AFC Championship, well, that was a high moment and they should just be happy they were there. So where do I go for this one? Throwing it all the way back to 1999. They went 14-2 in the regular season. They absolutely demolished Dan Marino in the 62-7 in the final game of his career. They were 15-0 against every opponent they faced, except they were 0-3 against one. Mustachio Jeff Fisher, Eddie George, and Air McNair, the Tennessee Titans. They even had a 14-10 lead at halftime in the AFC Championship game in 1999, and then disaster struck. The Jags turned the ball over 4 times. McNair ran a couple of scores in, threw some touchdowns, and Jacksonville lost the game and faded into mediocrity through the mid-2000s. For Kansas City, we could talk about Marcus Mariota's self-pass, the 1995 AFC Championship game, or the 2025 season. But is that really a curse when you dominated for all those years? And all those Chiefs moments are good for this video. But how about playing a football game on Christmas Day for 82 minutes and getting absolutely nothing to show for it other than the fact that you took that long to lose? I call this, well, ESPN and other people call this the longest game ever. And let's take this to the fourth quarter. Tied at 24 after a Bob Greasy touchdown pass to Marv Fleming, a massive 78-yard kick return from the Kansas City Chiefs. Ed Podolak sets the Chiefs up for the game winner. In steps Jan Stenerud, one of the greatest kickers of all time. It's a chip shot from 31 yards, but he goes wide right. The Dolphins punt. The Chiefs do nothing. Overtime. The Chiefs get the coin toss. Stenerud steps up again from 42 yards this time, and it's blocked by the Dolphins special teams later on. Dolphins go 3 and out. Garo Upremian attempts a 52-yard kick, but it's short. And for the first time in post-merger NFL history, we go to double overtime in a playoff game. The Dolphins throw an interception, and at 12 minutes and 6 seconds into the period, this officially becomes the longest game in NFL history. The Chiefs punt. Larry Zonka breaks a 29-yard run into Chiefs territory down to the 37-yard line with 7 minutes and 40 seconds left. Yepremian splits the uprights to win it, and all the Chiefs get is a stinky pair of socks and a trip to the showers on Christmas Day.
Make the most important kick of the 1971 NFL season.
Tuck! 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 A completely absurd rule ends the Raiders' seasons and kicks off 20 years of misery for most of the NFL. Yes, we could talk about the Immaculate Reception, the Gruden trade, or the Jamarcus Russell draft pick. But the tuck rule is perhaps the worst thing to happen to the Raiders. The date, January 19th, 2002, there is 1 minute and 50 seconds on the clock. Raiders cornerback Eric Allen supposedly hears the play call from Tom Brady. Relays it to his teammates, and then the play happens. Brady pumps once, brings the ball down, and boop, Charles Woodson strips him. The Raiders can go and win, right? Oh no, if you look up NFL Rule Section 22, Article 2, Note 2, which was quietly created in 1999, a player who starts a forward motion and tries to bring the ball back is ruled an incomplete pass. Crazy part, this actually happened earlier on against the Patriots. The weak Jets quarterback Vinny Testaverde did the exact same thing. This caused an absolutely uproar from Raider Nations and sparked a seething hatred for Tom Brady. Because of that ruling, Adam Vinatieri nails a field goal in the snow, and the Raiders eventually lost in overtime. The rule was finally repealed in 2013, and Brady even admitted to Woodson years later that it actually should have been a fumble. Too little, too late in my mind.
Lost the football. It's on the ground.
Little part wants the Holy Roller, but you cannot pass up LT getting robbed of a Super Bowl ring by none other than Tom frickin' Brady and the Patriots. Under Marty Schottenheimer, the 2006 Chargers were an absolute unit. They went 14-2. LaDainian and Tomlinson had 28 rushing touchdowns and led the league in rushing yards, 1,800. This team was so loaded they had a young Antonio Cromartie, Sean Merriman, Antonio Gates, and Phillip Rivers, terrorizing offenses and defense alike, but this season had a miserable ending. 4th and 5. Brady down 21-13. He drops back, fires a pass that's intercepted by Marlon frickin' McCree. Everyone knows you're supposed to go down when you intercept the ball. I'm yelling at the TV, get down, get down, get down tonight! But McCree starts running and Troy Brown strips the ball away. He played corner, you know. Richie Caldwell recovers it for the Patriots. New England scores, ties the game. Steven Gostkowski hits a field goal, and suddenly the Patriots are up. And Nate Kading misses a 54-yard attempt, falls just short. And just like that, Marty Schottenheimer's 21-year NFL head coaching career was over. 14-2, and nothing to show for it.
And the ball comes out.
You know, I thought long and hard about the Miami Dolphins, and I'm tempted to put that 70-20 game against the Broncos as one of their biggest curses. But to be honest, the worst tragedy in this team's history is that Dan, the man Marino, never had a running game. And now, Dan Marino could throw a basketball through a Cheerio, but got it! His only running back to ever hit 1,000 yards was a guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not the one from the Lakers, in 1996. Think about that. It is the single greatest tragedy in NFL history, and it's half Shula's fault and half Marino's. Don Shula gave him the green light, and Dan took it. Shula always tailored his games to the QB. Bob Greasy needed a run game. Johnny Unitas, he'd let him sling it. And Marino, when he saw Marino, his eyes lit up. The run game vanished. Dan would literally audible at the line saying, "I don't care what Shula calls. We're throwing until we have the lead." It worked on Monday night against the undefeated Chicago Bears in '85, but that crap did not work in the playoffs in the cold when defenses schemed for it. They were one-dimensional. They should have been in that 1985 Super Bowl against the Bears, but Marino's greatest gift was ultimately his undoing. He was too good for his own good. And he just never won a Super Bowl, but he's still my favorite quarterback of all time.
Seeing another spectacular effort by Marino, who fires, touchdown!
Now, speaking of low-hanging fruit, I hear Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini calling my name. Or how about the various other dastardly tricks the Patriots have gotten away with? But no, we are going to the day that they literally Dick Dastardly themselves out of a perfect season. Spygate happens. Eric Mangini informs the league and an infuriated Patriots, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. Well, they go on a tear, 50 touchdowns. Randy Moss catches 23 of them. Wes Welker, the receiver Miami didn't want, starts the Foxborough trend of the slow, reliable, white receiver. They were invincible until they weren't. The Kings started to show against Baltimore, and the Giants almost got him in Week 17. Then came Super Bowl 42 in Glendale, Arizona. The Giants were huge underdogs, but they harassed the crap out of Tom Brady all night like they were an ex-lover. Brady still managed to put the Patriots up 14-10 with under 3 minutes to go. And then the legend of Eli Manning bringing down Cerberus begins. We get the frickin' helmet catch, a play where Rodney Harrison should have knocked the ball away, but he just didn't. To cap off that 83-yard drive, Plexico Burress hits him with the slant and go for the touchdown. Brady has one last shot, a 4th and 20, a Hail Mary intended for Randy Moss, but it's batted down by Jabril Wilson. The Patriots did not become the second team to go undefeated, and you can bet the Miami Dolphins were popping that champagne late that night.
Manning stays on his feet, airs it out.
The New York Jets, did they really sell their soul for the glory of Super Bowl III? Some people say yes, like my brother, but honestly, I don't put weight in curses, so we have the putt fumble. The Jets were actually a pretty good team in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and then on November 22nd, 2012, in front of 79,088 people, Mark Sanchez did the second worst thing in his life. Sanchez goes for the handoff to fullback Lex Hilliard, but Sanchez's momentum carries him 5 yards backwards. Then when he tries to run upfield, boom! He slams his face right into the rump of offensive lineman Brandon Moore. The ball pops loose, the Patriots scoop, they score, and just like that, it seems the Jets have never picked themselves up off that horrible MetLife turf.
Of course, the offensive coordinator, you got a busted play here.
You know, I actually thought I was going to go with Neil O'Donnell's Super Bowl interceptions, or maybe even getting blown out by the Browns in 1989, but if you think the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is bad now, the Steelers actually managed to pass up on a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And in my opinion, this guy was top 5. In 1955, a player out of Louisville was drafted in the 9th round as a project player after an injury-riddled senior season. Instead of developing him, they cut the kid for another hometown product, Ted Marchibroda, who was taken number 5 overall in the 1953 draft. And it was a disaster. The Steelers continued to be a laughingstock, starting 27 different quarterbacks from 1955 to 1969. They did end up with Terry Bradshaw in 1970, but they had an abysmal record, 106, 139, and 9 ties. Meanwhile, that kid they cut went on to have a Hall of Fame career that included a Super Bowl, 3 NFL championships, 3 league MVPs, and 10 Pro Bowl selections. That young man was Johnny Unitas. Pittsburgh, you made it up later, but you could have had something earlier. The Tennessee Titans, for all intents and purposes, were fairly decent in my lifetime, but everyone will look back on them for what could have been if Kevin Dyson's arm was just a yard longer. January 30th, 2000, Super Bowl 34. The Rams were up 23-16 after Kurt Warner lobbed a beauty to Isaac Bruce, who took it to the house for a touchdown. And then Air McNair happened. He was dodging, ducking, dipping, diving, and dodging and weaving, shedding tackles, and finding the open man, although he nearly threw an interception. Fast forward and the Titans are on the doorstep. 6 seconds left. 10 yards to go. The Tennessee Titans were going to use their tight end, Frank Wycheck, as a decoy to draw Mike Jones, the linebacker, away from Dyson. McNair throws a slant route and it's caught. The play is executed flawlessly, but Jones is right there. No matter how far he reached, Dyson's arms were just too short to find the end zone when he was tackled.
He dives for the end zone!
Didn't make it.
The Houston Texans have been a team that doesn't do right some years, but it's kind of good some years. And this year, we had C.J. Stroud doing his best Jim Everett impersonation. David Carr's sack record, and Matt Schaub. But none of this compared to the trade that sent DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona for a washer and $2.50. DeAndre Hopkins was an All-Pro, and yes, they allowed the Chiefs to steamroll them in the playoffs after leading 24-0, but Texans fans were feeling riotous about this one because in return they received running back David Johnson, who wasn't performing, and a second-round pick and a 2021 fourth-round pick. They gave up their fourth-round pick too. This trade set them back big time, and Bill O'Brien actually defended the move, and then he was canned later on. So, Houston, you had a problem. So, my fellow football fans, did I nail this list, or do you think I was way off base? Let me know in the comments what is the most cursed moment in your team's history, and like and subscribe, and hit that bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios, say la vie, stay blessed, boom.